Okay, so
maybe get the lights a little bit.
someone can get the light. So good afternoon. We are starting the afternoon session. First speaker will be Ruehle from Racine, Wisconsin. We talk about his adventures in Tanzania. Okay, so Chuck.
All right, thank you. The music you've been listening to, I brought it intentionally because oftentimes when a visitor comes to a community on Mount Meru, members of the community gather, perhaps a group even like we saw on the slide of the Maasai women, young women, they might come out singing and dancing and surround the visitors and welcome them. And so I wanted to have a little sense of that as we begin this afternoon. My project is entitled Galileoscopes to Tanzania, and I'll tell you a bit about that in a moment, but I do want you to refer on your yellow sheet to that little description there, that little yellow first paragraph description that I'll share my experiences from last year, and I'll share my plans for returning again this October in just 9 weeks, and the preparations of creating materials and resources for doing that. And as the last sentence there said, you know, at 9,000 feet, there are no big box stores available for last-minute purchases. So it's helpful to be a blend of both Ruth Goldberg and MacGyver. And since then, I picked up from our observatory director, Mark Schmidt, that you need to be, sometimes you just got to Frankenstein. I mean, you just got to make it work. And so that's what this work in Tanzania is about. Just a word on who I am. I am a retired organizer and trainer. I retired after some 40 years of work, working mostly in institutional and community settings, helping people understand racism and colonialism as it exists here in the United States and as it has operated around the world. And so for me, doing this work in Tanzania is just a continuation of that work, the same kind of work in my retirement I continue to do in my home community of Racine. I came to be in Tanzania last year because of a Lutheran church group. I'm a retired Lutheran pastor, and my wife is also a Lutheran pastor, and the congregation she belongs to is a partner with a Lutheran parish up on the side of the mountain in Tanzania, and so we went to visit them. And the delegation I traveled with was comprised mostly of teachers, and they were taking lots of resources and teaching ideas to share with their counterparts in the many schools we would be visiting, and I thought, well, what can I do? And finally, I came upon the idea, well, I'm an amateur astronomer. I like looking through an eyepiece at the sky, so maybe I could take some Galileoscopes, because I already had a Galileoscope. And I thought, well, I could do that. And so I started sharing that vision or idea both in my home club, the Racine Astronomical Society, but also at the Winter Star Party, whatever that was, 3-4 years ago, in Florida, in the Keys, and Heart of America Star Party down in Missouri, and the Kansas City Astronomy Club, and some other folks gave me Galileoscopes, and they gave me some modern eyepieces, and so ultimately I took 3 sets of astronomy gear like this. By the way, before there was PowerPoint, there were powerful red pointers. So that's what I'm using today. And so I took
change seats.
I took 3 of these sets of gear and shared in 3 communities and in 3 or 4 schools based in 3 communities. And then left all of the material there when I returned, and so that's why involved in this way. And then last fall, as I guess I can best quote it in that copy of that article you've got, and by the way, that's in the archive section of the website. But just above or around the photo on the lower right-hand corner, it says, a science teacher from Sangoro, that's one of the schools, sent me an email that said, our students are real excited and enjoy watching the stars, thanks to you for providing us with a telescope. In fact, my students are wondering why those objects in the sky are not falling down. Now, we were reminded just before break earlier by Ruehle that, it doesn't help to answer questions that students aren't asking. And this, Mr. Mbuya here, he's the assistant headmaster at the Laurel School, and he teaches the physics department. He was so excited that now his students were asking the questions. And so that really became kind of an impetus, including some invitations from Mr. Mbuya and some other locations to ask me, would I come and do some more sharing? I don't know if teaching is qualified, but at least sharing does. And so then that article that you have there was published in the Reflector magazine, a magazine of the publication of the Astronomical Society of America, and I started getting encouragement from different places. And so I decided I would indeed go back, but this time I didn't have relationships beyond those schools that I had, so I contacted the head of the secondary school in the region there on Mount Meru, and asked him what 3 additional schools I should go to. And so Mr. Tareto Nasari then shared the names of some additional schools, because I thought, it ought to be self-determination. The folks in Tanzania know better where I should take resources than I do, even though there were folks here who have relationships all around the area who were asking me to, go to my school, go to my school. By the way, for those of us here, it probably won't be real visible for folks.
Pretty closer.
Yeah, well, actually, let's take them out of it. This is a map of Africa, and you can see Africa, you can see Tanzania there. Point to it if you would, Alan, in the horn, just below Kenya, basically on the equator. Where I am, I'm about 2 degrees south. And can you see it there? Yeah, right there. Yeah, there's Kenya, and then right below it is Tanzania, and probably Kilimanjaro's on there. The mountain I'm on, Mount Meru, is the little sister to Kilimanjaro. It's only 15,000 feet high, and the Kilimanjaro is 20, and so it gets all the press. So I'll be working on the mountain if you want to hold this one up there, it's got some highlights on it. These are 7 schools, 7 communities I'll be working in. Yes?
Okay, so do you drive up? Do you climb up?
Oh, okay. No, I'm not a climber. But you can see the schools of Tikatiti, Sangoro, Mulala, and also, in addition to Mulala, there's Kalinga, and then Ngaranga, and Nakamura, and then way up high there, Ngarinuki. My contact person at Mulala about 2 months ago emailed me and said, the teachers in Mulala are exciting you're coming back, because I left them a telescope last year. And the teachers at Kalinga are excited you're bringing them a telescope too. So I am. So, no, basically, there are only 2 paved roads in that northern Tanzania region. One runs from the coast to Dodoma, which is in the center of the nation, which is the capital, and then one runs from Arusha, which is right at the base of Mount Meru, up to Kenya. As a matter of fact, when Susan comes to visit, the folks that I work with there. She will come down from Nairobi on that road, because it's the only road. Come through the Serengeti and Ngorongoro crater, and nice drive. Yeah, it's a nice drive. So in any case, folks will help me get about with African Land Rovers, not the kind we have here in the States, but the kind that are heavy-duty diesel made for the one I was in primarily last year, had about 430,000 miles, or kilometers. I don't know if it's miles or kilometers, but it was a lot. It had seen a long life, but it was just, as a matter of fact, when we would be somewhere, and we were going to be picked up, you could hear it coming miles away, and it had a very distinctive sound. And there were only maybe 2 other vehicles up there in that area, so you knew when your vehicle was coming. You could hear it many kilometers away. So that's what I'll do. I'll be going back up to Mount Meru here, and in that photograph in that handout, it's not very good. Meru is the larger photograph at the top of the handout. And then the insert is Kilimanjaro, and I took that photo of Meru, which is a collapsed volcanic crater outward, so it's horseshoe shaped. I was on one rim shooting across to the other, but then I just turned around and took that photograph of Kilimanjaro, because it's about 100 kilometers to the west of Kilimanjaro is where Mount Meru is. Just a few words about why, when I retired teaching astronomy on the side of a mountain in Africa wasn't on my bucket list. So why do this? I think that Oscar Wilde's quote of, ordinary riches can be stolen, real riches cannot. In your soul are infinitely precious things that cannot be taken from you. I would add to that something magical, mystical, spiritual happens the first time the photons in the eyepiece enter your eye, and it feeds the soul, and it gives it hope, and so and then Susan gave a whole long list of why just before lunch earlier today in terms of providing the kind of technical resources, some very limited. In the situations I am, I'm hoping 2 of the locations will at least have computers, and one of them should have internet at some point. In most of the places I am, they're off the grid, no electricity, no running water, that sort of thing. And so even the places that do have electricity, it's not 20%. So, but we're going to work on it. As Susan said earlier, it's important that we introduce the technology, capacity, possibility, so that people move forward. But we have to do it in a way that doesn't discourage them, because they don't have it right now. So it's a little bit of a give and take there. So that's why I do it. Also, anyone here ever heard of the book The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind? The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind.
What's the author?
William Kamakwamba. He's from Malawi, a young man, about 14 years old, during drought and famine. About 8 years ago, his parents couldn't afford to send him to school because the crops had failed. So he couldn't go to secondary school, because in Malawi, as in Tanzania, I don't know about Kenya, secondary education you have to pay for, whether it's government-sponsored or private. And so he couldn't afford to go to school, but he had seen someone riding a bicycle with a bicycle generator on their tire that made a light. And he thought, how did they do that? So he went to his local elementary school and got some science books and studied electricity. And then he went to the junkyard and found parts. And then another friend who had a little bit of resources went to a little shop and bought him a generator, and eventually he built a wind generator, like a windmill, and powered his home. During that whole period, his family, the village, everyone thought he was crazy. He was just the boy who got crazy. But now, if you Google the boy who harnessed the wind, there's a TED Talk. And there's a really fine book. That motivates me, thinking that if some of the books, some of the resources I take into the country end up into the hands of some young person whose imagination and capacity are sparked by that, I will feel like, yeah, this is working. So again, it's to give hope. And finally, I want to say part of my motivation comes out of my life work, and that means I've learned that I have to approach the African context with humility. I got a ton of resources on all kinds of stuff, but I need to be aware of the history of Western colonialism in Africa, and how that has reshaped relationships between the Zulus, white folks, and Africans, and what that means. And so I just have to do a lot of listening and be with people, and then we'll figure out what we're going to do. And that's why I've tried to put together a whole list of possibilities I could do in some of the classrooms, because it will just depend on how we are able to work together. You can see there on that yellow sheet the materials I'm taking in include, so far it's about 150 pounds of gear. It includes 5, or now I believe it will be 6 after this event, Galileoscopes with tripods. Thank you very much. Thank you, Hans. Global Hands. And also modern eyepieces, 3 or 4 for each telescope, because they really improve the viewing. The positive that's in those scopes is decent, but modern eyepieces, oftentimes, I've got some wider angle viewing, and because you have to hand track these, the wider the view you have in the eyepiece, the less business you have to do moving around. And then also 270 millimeter Vixens, like this one here. This is one to go yet. These were, I received these as a donation through Astronomers Without Borders. Some of you might know like Sim. And they made arrangements for Vixen to drop ship 2 of those to my home. And most of the equipment that you see here in this upper photo, 5 Galileoscopes, about a dozen boxes like this filled with print resources from NASA and other sources, and lots of other gear is already there. I made arrangements with 22 individuals that I knew were going in between June and now. And Karen, you can check 100 pounds international. I just wanted 5% of their weight. Give me 5 pounds. And so all of these are little 5 or 6 pound packets. The Galileoscope and a tripod is very lightweight, so you just break it up and send it in. And right now it's waiting for me in a secure location at the base I will have at the base of the mountain to move about to those 6 locations. And I'm taking other stuff. We'll have spectroscopes. Try it out. So work okay?
Yes. But now you can teach them how to do it with serial.
Right. Well,
you don't need diffraction rating.
Right. Yeah.
It's something that they won't.
Right. Yeah. Well, we will. But these are those little diffraction gratings that you can get, and but the box, because I have to carry everything in, because I can't say on Monday, well, tomorrow we're doing a project bringing in old shoe box. in remote areas, everything gets used by the community, and so there's just stuff laying around. And so these little boxes come from Starbucks. Their petite desserts are served in there. I had one recently, and I looked at it, and I saw the end of that box, and I thought, that looks about the size of that slide. So I took it home, made a spectroscope out of it. It worked. So I went back, and if you're a Starbucks Gold Card member, you can go to your favorite barista and say, Kevin, I need about 15 of those boxes. He says, sure. You're going to take them to Africa? Yeah, because he knows them all. And so these little boxes collapse, and so they weigh almost nothing. So they'll fit in my 100 pounds of checked luggage, along with the Vixen telescope here. And let's see, what else? Oh, and this solar scope, I assume many of you are familiar with that reflecting solar scope. It's a wonderful little piece. And one of the delightful things is that inside, this mounts on the inside, and students will be able to at least track the movement of the sunspots across the face of the sun over the course of a couple days. So I'll make sure they each have a piece of paper to lay over this, and we'll keep it in the same position the whole time, and then they'll be able to see, across the face of the sun to see how those spots are moving. So it's just a wonderful little tool. Most of this stuff has been donated. I had to buy some. Probably I spent maybe $1,500 or so on resources. Ultimately, $3,000 or $4,000 worth of resources, which have been donated. This week I've collected up some things that you've shared. So I've gotten resources from everywhere, lenses, this, that, everybody, old eyepieces from folks. I'll have things like this. I assume most of you are familiar with this little universe. Universe in a Pocket, I think it's called. Yeah. And that comes from this wonderful resource from the Astronomical Society of the Pacific. Just out recently, the universe at your fingertips. It has about 135, 140 wonderful, very usable exercises on it. What? Yeah. It's got great stuff on it. And they've gone through the copyright stuff, and they've done it in a really professional and accountable way. So it's a great resource. So I've got a bunch of that stuff that I'll be taking with me, because most of those resources will either be available locally or things like this that won't weigh much, that I'll be able to take in with me. I'll have a little universe here, and or rather solar system, excuse me, a little solar system, and that'll be part of the opportunities. I also have reflection spectroscopes with just the CD on the bottom, and these boxes have already been sent in because Celestron gave me these eyepieces along with the planetarium program, and I'm taking those with me because most of the schools will have at least an office computer, so that even if they're not hooked up to the internet, they should be able to run a planetarium. This is a very low memory need planetarium program. I think it's SkyX or something. But it'll still be a useful tool. It also came with a 6 and 12 millimeter eyepiece and a moon filter. And that's the thing I crave. After the finder scopes, I really did long for the moon filters, because after 3 days, that moon is so bright in those dark skies, you need a filter in order to pick up any detail. Yes, 5 minutes. Okay, well, you see the gear on the back side. You see some of the methods that we're trying to do. I'll have 2 or 3 days in each of the schools. But as I said earlier, I may get to a school and they may say, well, you have an hour today and an hour tomorrow with this class, or they may say, we canceled classes and you do something with us for 3 days. In all the locations, we'll observe any night we can with the telescope. And so that'll be, I've got some Uncle Al's star wheels for the students to make. I've already sent in the hard copy for that, and the skizzers come, and And by the way, my motto has become. I saw a notebook that had on the cover of it a motto from World War II England, which said, "Stay calm, carry on." And my motto for this trip is going to be, "Stay calm, carry on." And so we'll be able to assemble those, and I've already put in my request for his to-do list that we get an equatorial hotel, because those of us working in Africa could use one, couldn't we, Susan? Yeah. So we've made our request for that. You've seen some of the solar stuff. You've seen the filter that I've made, and again, I've sent over the holders. I'll let you carry in a secure fashion the mylar film already made up, so I just have to assemble them. This is that diagonal that was mentioned yesterday. As a matter of fact, this is Leo Science Lab model of the Galileoscope. This is their version of it, and this is that diagonal that Rob was talking about yesterday. And so
Chuck, did you make that diagonal?
No, well, you assemble it just as we assemble the telescope, yes. But you buy it from leosciencelab.com. Or is it more? No, I think it's not. And so, my optics bench will be some lenses, a sewing tape or a tailor's tape, because here in the U.S. generally they're sold with inches on one side and millimeters on the other. And if you take a piece of gaffer tape and tape each end down, you've got yourself a meter stick. And then you take some close-ins, the spring-loaded kind, put a little felt tip on each side, and you've got a holder for your lenses. And that way I won't have to carry an optical bench up this side of the mountain. So it'll be a very simple process. And any last questions before I say thank you? Questions?
Well, it sounds like, you've actually thought through the science, at least some of the science ed pieces, like with the optics kit and optics bench. There were some questions, we have telescopes going all around the world.
Right.
We use that as a chance to teach simple lenses and optics.
Right.
Rich and I do that.
Right.
Magnifications and focal lengths. But do you train the teacher? It seems like, I wonder maybe, that can be Susan's or, some of our other ground truth tools that help train the teachers and support teachers so they can use these.
Well, I suspect that the leader of the group I'll be working with may be responding to a request for proposals that went out recently for a Galileo teacher training program. That could work, couldn't it?
Yeah.
And that includes the optics and the lenses,
Yeah.
Because we don't want to just say these are magical things.
That's right. And very much that'll be a part of it. And also, what I've taken in are astronomy textbooks, college-level textbooks, because the instructors there have had this at the university level, but unlike here in the States, students there don't tend to have their own textbooks. So each of the schools will have a set of astronomy textbooks that are the desk copies that an astronomy professor I know gave me. They're about anywhere from 2 to 4 years old. But, the basic stuff has pretty much stayed there in those textbooks.
Okay, Rosa, quick one.
Yeah, I'm going to suggest today during the General Assembly to do something like for the calls, we're doing crowd support, so to ensure that everyone, not only the 8, are funded,
Right.
but we can also start a new line that is called Astro Package Drive, which would be asking people to fund as many packages as we possibly can, and then they get their names or something like that in the package that you are taking or sending to whatever place.
Right.
That would be a nice idea.
Yeah, and everything doesn't have to be done before October because as I've already shared,
But
I've got relationships to keep sending stuff in.
I mean a permanent.
Right, yes, yes.
Keep
An
doing
ongoing,
it and
a
every.
sustainable process, because that's what this needs to be. And behind you is.
Okay, quick.
I think it's really nice and it's a really good project for the next Tanzania, which will be very spread across Africa because where such really, there's so much past for knowledge that you live with experience. See as also as they can have the astro package and maybe try and have an African discussion and even if you're not involved, get some of your resources through the tourists who travel across to what is Africa and other civilizations.
Is everyone covered? Okay. Oh, sure, yeah.
Here's the Chuck, once a member of GHOU, you're always a member of this family.
Right. So the DVD one, by the way, DVDs works better than CDs because they have more lines per inch. So I believe that would be true for either the making the transmission one or for the reflection one. Because they hold more data, they have more lines per inch.
Chuck, is there a story about your that extra tall cave?
Well, the story there is that after 3 weeks of being with people, I was brought into the community as a babu, that is an elder or a grandfather, and I was honored very much and thought like, well, you can get kind of embarrassed and all of that. And then I reflected on my 3 weeks and realized that in 3 weeks, I have not encountered a lot of men in my age group. Men don't live, a lot of men don't live in Africa, particularly in that part of Tanzania. So I also began to understand that it was more than just an honorific thing that really had some meaning to it. So that's another reason for going back. This grows at the tree line, it's so hard, I don't think you could break it. It really is. Wow.
Okay, thank you very much, Chuck. Just a couple of minutes.
I lost it.
Yeah, Alan lost it.
Somehow in the transfer.
Okay, just
Yeah, I'll get it back.
hopefully.
See her. She's online.
Yeah, I know, but I'm not, I don't have the power to record right at the moment.
You need more time?
Yeah. Sorry.
No problem. Really.
This is fine. Hung up.
Yeah, like him. Overhead. Upward.
Professor, I can tell you that Charles Howard is the
Perception it is.
I mean,
And it's only like for students.
no, they don't use the house.
Okay. Well, somebody is on.
רואים את מה שהם עושים במחשב. איך מפה, מה התקשרת עליהם? מה, הם שומעים אותך כאילו?
Okay, getting control now. Okay. It's looking good. Yeah, it's somehow disconnecting from there and coming over here. Oh, everybody's here. Okay. So all I need to do is stop the old recording.
Thank you. Please stand by.